Okay, so here we are. As I speak to you right now, we are entering 2001. So what's going to happen in the road ahead? First of all, we know that there will soon be a temple built on the Temple Mount. It's very clearly prophesied in the Bible. In the scriptures, it tells us that there will be a temple. Revelation chapter 11, we already read it, where John was told to measure the temple. Furthermore, after the temple is built, sacrifices are going to be resumed. So Israel is somehow going to build their temple. They're going to resume animal sacrifices, which means there's apparently some kind of a religious revival. At the same time, this is going to be done under a situation where the Temple Mount will be shared. Then the Bible tells us, once the temple is built, sacrifices are resumed, that the Antichrist, 3.5 years before Armageddon, will stand in the rebuilt Jewish temple claiming to be God. That prophecy is found in 2 Thessalonians chapter number 2, verse number 3. It simply says, "Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition." The man of sin here is the Antichrist, the one world dictator of the end time. "He will be revealed, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God." So this prophecy tells us the Antichrist is going to stand in the temple of God. You can't stand in a temple if there is no temple. He's going to stand in the temple of God, claiming to be God, and that's the event known in Scripture as the abomination of desolation. That is the event that triggers the Great Tribulation. That's when the Antichrist stands where he should not stand. Now, Jesus spoke about it in Matthew chapter number 24 and verse 15. Jesus said, "When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand." Remember, he's going to stand where? In the holy place. Where is the holy place? It's in the temple. Jesus was on the Mount of Olives when he was speaking these words, and he was pointing right down there to the temple. The disciples had just said, "Look at the beautiful buildings of the temple." And Jesus was addressing that issue. And he told about the destruction of the temple, but then he talks about another day when the temple will be rebuilt. He said, "And when you see the abomination of desolation stand in the holy place, then let those which be in Judea flee into the mountains." Where is Judea? Judea is not Israel. Judea is the occupied territories, the West Bank, that the Palestinians are demanding to be given back right now. There is going to come horrible persecution. Right now, the most intense terrorist attacks are in Judea. They're in places called Gush Etzion. They're in Ephrat and other places that are out there in the areas of Judea, which the Palestinians call occupied territories. Jesus Christ said, when you see the abomination of desolation, then if you live in Judea, you've got to run for your life. And these are the people we mailed a magazine to, warning them of what is coming. Some people have already moved out of there as a result of the magazine that we sent to them. Now, why should the people flee? Because verse 21 says, "For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be." Now, all this tells us the great tribulation is coming. 3.5 years of great tribulation. A lot of people think there's 7 years, but every scripture that describes the great tribulation describes it as a period of 3.5 years. Now, all of this is coming to the culmination of the final battle between God and Satan, between good and evil, between the Antichrist and the real Christ. It's depicted in Zechariah chapter number 14, verse number 2. It simply says, "For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity." So here's the prophecy. I will gather all nations against Jerusalem. Remember, the Italian ambassador to Israel said, "You better get your Palestinian problem settled, or we're going to have to come and do it for you." Within the last 2 or 3 weeks, the United Nations Security Council has considered a request by Arafat to move international forces into Israel to solve this problem. I'm not talking about something that could happen 20 or 30 years ago. I'm talking about something that was presented to the international community, the United Nations Security Council. I'm talking about something that was presented to them within the last week or so. an interesting time that we live in. All nations will be gathered against Jerusalem to battle. Ultimately, a world government force is going to come against Israel.